All right, let's talk about Forrest Gump. It's one of those movies, right? It feels like it's been around forever, a part of our collective memory. Even decades later, it's still considered this huge cinematic landmark. But have you ever stopped to think why? What is it about this one story that just sticks with us? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to deconstruct this classic, drawing from what critics and viewers have said over the years to really get to the bottom of its magic.
Of course, you know the line, and here's the thing. According to just about every review out there, it's so much more than just a famous quote. It's basically the entire movie's philosophy wrapped up in one sentence. Life is this journey of completely unexpected moments, some sweet, some hilarious, and yeah, some just incredibly sad. That idea, that's the compass for the whole story. Okay, so how are we going to tackle a classic this big? We're going to break it down into 4 key parts that reviews always come back to. First up, we've got to talk about Tom Hanks' iconic performance. Then, we'll look at the film's amazing journey through history. After that, we'll dive into its emotional core, the thing that really gets you. And finally, we'll put it all together to see why this thing endures. All right. First things first, let's talk about the absolute heart of the film. I mean, every single analysis, every review, it all boils down to one simple, undeniable truth. Without Tom Hanks, there is no Forrest Gump. Seriously. His performance isn't just in the movie, it is the movie's heart. And what's so wild is when you look at how people describe Forrest, it's always the same words. You see innocent, sincere, lovable, funny, even surprisingly wise pops up over and over again. Tom Hanks just masterfully crafts this character who is pure goodness, but somehow he never feels boring or one-dimensional. He makes you actually believe in Forrest's way of seeing the world.
You know, one critic really just hit the nail on the head. They called it a performance of sincerity and emotional purity that never feels exaggerated or artificial. And think about that for a second. With a character like Forrest, it would be so easy to overdo it, to make it feel fake. It's like walking this incredibly fine line, and Hanks just nails it. It's a huge reason why that character became an icon.
Okay, but it's not just about the character, as amazing as he is. The movie does something really unique with its story structure, something that critics just rave about. See, this isn't only Forrest's story. In a lot of ways, it's the story of America during a really wild time. The way the film weaves his life through these huge historical moments is just brilliant. We're talking the 60s with the civil rights movement in Vietnam, the 70s with ping-pong diplomacy and Watergate, the 80s with the start of Apple and the AIDS crisis. Forrest is just there for all of it. He's this accidental fly on the wall, and sometimes he's even part of the action without realizing it. It's such a clever way to make these massive historical events feel really personal. So what you end up with is this incredible balancing act. On one hand, you've got this massive, epic story playing out, decades of American history, huge cultural shifts. But on the other hand, it's all held together by this one deeply personal, super intimate story of a simple, kind man. And that balance? That's exactly what makes the whole thing so powerful. Okay, so we've got an amazing character and this brilliant story structure. But what's the thing that really makes it stick? The thing that you're still thinking about days later? Well, that's its emotional core. This is where the movie really finds its soul. And right at the center of it all, one critic called it the film's emotional heartbeat, and that is just the perfect description, is the relationship between Forrest and Jenny. It spans decades, it's complicated, it's often heartbreaking. Honestly, their story is what gives the movie its soul. And their dynamic is just so powerful, because they're like 2 sides of the same coin, representing that whole era. You've got Forrest, who stands for kindness, loyalty, this kind of unbreakable innocence. And then you have Jenny. She's the other side. She's all about the trauma, the rebellion, that messy search for meaning that was happening in the counterculture. When their 2 worlds collide, well, that's where the movie gets all of its emotional punch. And this is maybe the film's greatest trick. It manages to balance these moments of pure, uplifting humor with scenes that are just devastating. Seriously, one minute you're laughing out loud at one of Forrest's crazy situations, and the next, bam, the story just hits you right in the feels. Like one person said, it makes you laugh and cry in the same breath. That emotional roller coaster is a huge reason why it's so memorable. So, let's recap. We've got an unforgettable performance, a totally unique way of telling the story, and this super heavy emotional core. But what happens when you mix all of that together? How does Forrest Gump go from being just a really good movie to a truly timeless classic? Well, when you look at all the analysis, it's almost like there's a recipe for making a classic.
Step 1, you need an absolutely unforgettable main character. Step 2, you wrap it in an innovative and epic story structure. Step 3, you give it a surprisingly heavy emotional core. And Step 4, the final ingredient, you fill it with timeless universal themes.
And that's the stuff that makes sure this movie connects with people no matter when they watch it. We're talking about big ideas like destiny, love, loss, and innocence. But maybe the biggest one of all is resilience, the power of just simple, basic kindness. In a world that only seems to get more complicated, that message just hits home. It's why people say you can watch it again and again, and it just never gets old. It always feels like it matters.
So, when you put it all together, the verdict is pretty clear. It's that powerful mix of all these ingredients that solidifies its place in film history. One critic summed it up perfectly, calling it simply a beautiful, unforgettable classic. And you know what? They're not wrong.
And that kind of leaves us with a final question to chew on, right? In a world that can feel pretty cynical and messy, this movie just holds up a simple story about kindness, and it makes you wonder. So I guess the real question the film leaves us with is, in our complicated world, what role does a simple story about kindness really play?